Okay, so again, welcome to the PhD in the Netherlands online series, episode 5. So very exciting today because we have another guest speaker who will be sharing with us his story about his PhD journey, doing a PhD program in Wageningen in the Netherlands. But before that, I would like to give you information a bit regarding our organization and a little bit information regarding PhD in the Netherlands, as well as our upcoming events. So just to give you information that this event is organized by Nuffic Southeast Asia and in collaboration with academic transfers to promote PhD recruitment. Okay, let's jump right into the presentation. So welcome everyone to just joining the session. Again, my name is Fumita Sari from Nuffic Southeast Asia, and our guest speaker today is Erbi Setiawan. He is a PhD student at Wageningen Institute for Environment and Climate Research, Environmental Technology, Wageningen University and Research. Before we start talking with Erbi, I'm going to give you a little bit information about our organization. So Nuffic Southeast Asia is a non-profit independent organization from the Netherlands. We are based in The Hague, the Netherlands, and Nuffic has several offices around the world, and one of them in Indonesia to represent Southeast Asia countries. We are funded by the Dutch government through its Ministry of Education, Culture, and Science. And yeah, so we are focusing on the internationalization in education. So we facilitate all of institutions in the Netherlands and Indonesia regarding education and research. So what are the activities that we normally do? First thing, we facilitate NL knowledge, just what I mentioned before, through scientific research and event collaboration between Dutch and Indonesian or Southeast Asian knowledge institutions. So we have a lot of collaboration in, for example, in scholarship or any other programs. We also support internationalization of education. We do this through promoting study in the Netherlands. So we provide a lot of information regarding study, but also scholarship. Other than that, we manage scholarship programs for masters, for bachelors, and short course. Apart from promoting study in the Netherlands, we also support study in Indonesia. So through WILWAF program, we support outgoing mobility in Indonesia to promote study in Indonesia to Dutch students. And lastly, we also connect and support Netherlands knowledge community, where we encourage all of the alumni or all those people who have been living and working in the Netherlands by providing them with a lot of events such as workshops, conference, or discussions, and so on. So we provide a lot of events for them too. Now, so PhD in the Netherlands. So for those of you who are joining this session for the first time, this is the perfect time for you to learn more about how to do a PhD in the Netherlands. But before that, it is also crucial to learn about the program. So PhD itself in general is conducted for a minimum of 4 years in the Netherlands while conducting a original research. We call it as a dissertation. And there are a lot of types of PhD, but the most known one is through a job vacancy. So it is very normal to do a PhD program in the Netherlands through a contract by the university or the institution that is providing this PhD program. So what he meant by contract is that you will get a salary for it. So you act as a academic staff at the university. So a PhD is offered by a lot of research universities in the Netherlands, but also offered by some institutions in collaboration with research universities. For more information, you can also find the job positions that you are interested in through the academic transfer, but also on the slides, you can find some websites to know more about the PhD in the Netherlands. Okay, next, what about the admissions and funding? So in general, if you apply the PhD program through a contract or based on a job position offered by the university, there will be some requirements that are offered already by the university. So you can read out all of the admission requirements. But there's also some criteria that you have to keep in mind. So these are three criteria. You do have to have a solid background in the theory and methods of the candidate's field. So the candidates have to make sure that the research that you're going to conduct during your PhD is relevant to your background as well. You do have to have a master's degree, also relevant to your background. And lastly, excellent English, because obviously you will use English as the main language for your research in the university. And how about the funding? So there are three ways to generally find funding for yourself. You can either employed by the PhD awarding institutions, that is the research university or the institution in the Netherlands. That means you will be getting a salary. Another point is that you can also apply for a fellowship or a grant awarded by the supporting body. So for example, like in Indonesia, we have LPDP for PhD. We also have a scholarship, for example, from MORA, Ministry of Religion Affairs, and so on. So there are ample opportunities for you to find funding for your PhD. But other than that, if you're working for a organization in your country, you can also possibly ask for sponsorship from your employer. For example, if you're working at a campus and that campus has their own funding budget for continuing to a PhD program, then that's also possible for you as well. Regarding the tuition fees, it's not likely mandatory for every PhD candidates, but for those universities that do provide tuition fees or other charge fees for you, it is also possible that they would provide you with this tuition fees. For example, for you to pay for the facilities and so on. So, but it really depends on the university. Before going to the next slides, here on the right side of the slide, you'll see a preview of the academic transfer website, where you can find all of the available PhD job position in the Netherlands, but also in other European countries. You can simply just write down your keywords like your field of study, and then you will see the results in which universities are offering different types of PhD or research position. So that's about it, the general information regarding PhD, but I'm also going to share with you the main event of the PhD. It's the PhD recruitment organized by Nuffic Southeast Asia in collaboration with Academic Transfer. It's going to be held on 7 October 2023 in Jakarta. So it's going to be located in the Dutch Embassy in Jakarta. It's offered for all those who are interested in pursuing PhD in the Netherlands. There are already some delegates, or we can say participating universities who are coming to Jakarta, just special for you to to recruit PhD candidates, but also to get to know more about the candidates itself. So how to do it? You have to go to the bit.ly/PhD 0710 to learn more about how to apply, but also the requirements. So basically, you have to provide your profile, like such as CVs, but also motivation, as well as a draft research proposal if you already have it, and then submit it before the deadline 3 October 2023. So if you get shortlisted as a candidate for this PhD recruitment, you will get invited by the Dutch delegates, or the professors, we call it. And then you get invited to a one-on-one interview in Jakarta on October 7th. So that's about the PhD recruitment. And next, just to inform you that we also have another event in the upcoming October. It's called the Winner, or the Week of Indonesia Netherlands Education and Research. So if you have interest in research, but also education, and also a little bit of SDGs, for example, topics such as like that, we are very welcome for you to come join us to this event. So just go to the website to know more about the program. Okay, so if you have another questions, or you want to know more about the programs that we have, you can always visit our social medias. We also have YouTube channels where we are uploading all of the sessions of the PhD online series. But also you can also stay in touch with us by contacting us through email and other communication channels. Okay, so it's exciting that we are starting the session with discussing about the PhD program in Wageningen. So I'd like to invite Erbi, Mas Erbi. Are you here?
Halo Mbak Yumi,
Hi, Mas Erbi. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good as well. It's a bit gloomy here in Jakarta. I don't know how about you. I know that you're currently in Indonesia.
Yeah.
So I hope everyone's doing well. So yeah, Mas Erbi will give you a little bit insights about his experience going through his his PhD journey. He's actually just starting the PhD this year, so it's also a bit starting fresh, Mas Erbi, for everyone else here, so you can really relate to what Mas Erbi is currently doing right now. So without further ado, please, Mas Erbi, I'm giving you the stage.
Thank you, Mbak Yumi. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much to Nuffic Southeast Asia, Mbak Yumi, for having me this afternoon. Well, I'm going to start these discussions with a small presentations. It's not going to take a long time. Maybe it's only 4 to 5 slides only. So perhaps after that, we can have more in discussion, yeah, Mbak Yumi, if it's okay.
Yes, of course, we'll be having a Q&A at the end of your presentation.
Okay, great. I'm going to share my screen right now. Sorry. Can you see my screen, Mbak Yumi?
Yes, we can see it clearly.
Okay, great. So, everyone, I'm going to talk about a short story about my journey for having PhD in Netherlands. So it's not gonna be a long presentations. As I said before, it's only 3 to 4 slides only. Uh, I'm going to start my presentations by telling you a bit about my lifetime timeline. As you can see, I did my bachelor before in 2010 to 2014 from IPB University, majoring civil environmental engineering. And then I was also active in some youth organizations until today, because I believe that having a youth organization is very important to develop myself and build a network. And afterward, I was working for a year as a site manager at General Construction Company. It was in Jakarta. And next, from 2015 to 2016, I was focused on preparing my master degree. As for information, I did my master as well in Netherlands in Wageningen University and Research. And then I started a social movement as well between 2015 and 2016. So during 2016 to 2018, I did my master, and then not only doing a master degree, I was also involved in some organizations, as maybe everyone know about PPI or Persatuan Pelajar Indonesia, Netherlands, and also I'm still involved in some youth organization from abroad in Indonesia. And afterwards, I got a job in Japan actually. So I moved to Japan for not a year, I think less than a year, for approximately around 8 months. I was working as a junior consultant in NGS Consultant. It was an engineering consultant company in Japan, and then afterwards I moved to UNESCO for Southeast Asia region. I was being involved in environmental and water sector units, and I was trying to be an entrepreneur as well. So I started my own business. It was a small business until today. And afterwards, until today, I'm working as a member in Ministry of National Planning and Development of Indonesia, but I'm not the public servant. I was like, let's say, it's called the National Steering Committee for Water Resource. So I'm a part of it. And also, since I did my master with the scholarship from the government of Indonesia, LPDP, I was also being appointed as the chief of this organization of LPDP awardees. So I was being the leader from 2020 to 2022. And then, yeah, of course, I still enhance my network. So I'm still active in some youth organization. And now I'm just started my PhD, and I'm looking for the future. So I hope I can enjoy the upcoming journey. The reason why I start my presentations from my lifetime timeline, because I want to share to you that PhD is not only about being academicians. I want to break this paradigm. I want to break this perspective, because for me, I'm not consider myself as an academician or as a researcher or as a scholars, but I think PhD is very important, not only for the academician but also for other sectors. So that's why I want to share to you first about my lifetimes. As you can see, from my lifetime timeline, it's very less for me to be a scholar or academicians. And in fact, that until today, I still have not got any publication for the academician research, academician paper or something like that. So this is the reason why I want to share to you that PhD is not only about being a academician. And these sessions, our discussion will focus about my journey between 2022 and 2023, because I think it's the crucial time for me, how I can got the PhD, and then also I can got the scholarship, and etc. etc. So according to my experience, basically, there are three essential points to when you want to apply for PhD. First, of course, you need to have a research clarity. It means that you have to write down about your research briefly, and then very clean and clear about your interest, and then about what do you want to do with the research, about the timeline and the stuff. And the second one is about the supervisor exploration. So this one is very crucial, I think, because after you write the proposal, you have to find the person that wants to be your supervisor. And the key points to get appropriate supervisor is you have to find the suitable topics with the supervisor expertise, and also about the availability, because sometimes, as like my experience before, well, I found the appropriate supervisor, but the things that the supervisor has no more room for new students. So it's also a challenging issue for me to get this for the supervisor for my PhD. And of course, the last point that very essential, I think, is about the financial strategy. It means that, well, you have to decide first, do you want to go your scholarship, you want to go your PhD with scholarship, or maybe you want to apply for the PhD vacancy, or maybe you want to do the PhD with self-fundings. You need to really consider about these options. In my case, well, I was lucky actually, because my current supervisor, my PhD advisor, is also my supervisor during my master. So before, in Netherlands after I did my master. Actually, I already offered I already offered PhD by my supervisor. But the thing is because uh, I got an LPDP and then I had to go back to Indonesia for 5 years, approximately more or less. So I decided to postpone my PhD. But then I was still in touch with my supervisor. And then last year, that's why in the previous slide I mentioned we were going to focus on 2022, 2023. Last year, my supervisor invited me to go to Netherlands for a month. I was thinking it was just a small, yeah, just a small conversation, like a talk of conversations. But when I went to Netherlands, she offered me a PhD, a big project about, and she thought that my expertise is really relevant with the projects. And then she also offered me a scholarship for that project. So at first I got acceptance at sandwich program, so it will be like 2 years in Netherlands, 2 years from Indonesia doing this research. But then I decided, because I would like to bring my family to Netherlands, I was thinking maybe it's better to get a scholarship. So at the beginning of 2023 I applied for the scholarship LPDP again. And yeah, I got a scholarship, so I will go back to Netherlands in this November. The maybe I can share a bit challenging questions from the interview is when I applied for LPDP. Maybe for anyone outside from Indonesia, LPDP is the scholarship that give from the Indonesian government. The first questions that they asked to me about, okay, according to my record, I haven't got any academic publication, then why you go for PhD? That was the first question I got from the interview during my application for LPDP. And I was answering the questions by, well, is PhD really relevant only for the academician? If that's the point, I would say that I'm the first person who against that perspective, because I was thinking 5 or 10 years or maybe 15 years in the future, I have a dream that Indonesia will be led by young people which has a great and a good background of academic. So that was the main reason why I'm going to do my PhD, even I don't have any academic publication. But for sure, since PhD will focus on the research, I will write I will produce at least 2 or 3 publications in the future. So that was just a bit background about why I'm doing PhD without any applications before. And I think it's also, this slide also related from what Miss Emmy mentioned before about how to search the PhD. At first, of course, you can find the PhD by finding opportunity from job vacancy. One of the website that provides a complete PhD opening vacancy in Netherlands is academic transfer. You can just type the job type PhD and then you will have a long list about the opening vacancy. And then what you need to do is just find a project which is suited with your background. Another thing is that you can go directly to the website university. As you can see from the screen, it's one example from Wageningen University and Research. You can just type Wageningen University and Research PhD vacancy. Then you can go to the website and there are a bunch of lists of the opening vacancy for the PhD. And then the last one, of course, you can, if there is no any vacancy which is switched with your background, what you need to do is just go directly to the people in the maybe chair group or some divisions, or yeah, from the website from the university, and then you can just directly send an email about your interest, and then sending your draft proposal, and then yeah, saying about your intention, why you want to do PhD, something like that. According to my experience, these are 3 important way, or 3 only main ways to get a PhD. For information, BME, actually I was accepted as well for PhD in Berkeley in United States of United States of America in Berkeley. But why I decided to go to Netherlands, because I was thinking that my subjects, which is about water and about environment, Netherlands is the leading country in this world for these subjects. And another thing is because I want to bring my family as well, and I believe that the environment in Netherlands is very, is very good with the family, to raise a child. So I think those are some considerations why I choose Netherlands for doing my PhD instead of going to Berkeley. So I think that's all from me. We're going to have more in the discussion, and then these are some pictures about the Wageningen University and Research. As you can see, the first picture is about the library, And then the second one is the city when it's winter. And then the third picture is about one of the, maybe it's quite a well-known image, yeah, by me about this image. And then the last one is about the main building of Wageningen University, which is called Forum Building. Thank you, Baimi. I'll give the floors to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mas Erbi, for your very insightful presentations. And of course, we will get more insights from you because we're going to have the Q&A session with all of you. So please do for our participants here joining us today, if you do have questions, please submit it through the Q&A tab. So that makes us easier to look at. But I see here already some questions putting here. But so maybe we can start from a question from a Malaysian student who are currently studying a master's program at UGM, Mas. So he or she have applied for a job vacancy at Wageningen. So that's your university, Mas Erbi. And he or she would like to know if you have any tips to ace the application. Because you already got it accepted, Mas Erbi.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Amy. Sorry, I don't know how to spell the name Karhu. Well, anyway, for this Malaysian student, for sure, when you apply for PhD vacancy at Wageningen University and Research, the first thing that you have to mention clear is about your interest, and then about the relevancy of your background with the PhD topic for sure. And sometimes you also need to submit about the minimum requirement. As you can see in Wageningen University and Research, the minimum English proficiency, at least you need to have 7 for IELTS. So it's, and also one of the important things, I think, if you can provide any recommendation letters, especially from a relevant personality, like let's say for instance the professor, or maybe the dean, or even the rector, or even you can get a recommendation letter from the lecturer from one university. I think it will boost your application to the university, because as long as I had a discussion with some college which got a PhD from the vacancy, those are the points that really important for them when they apply to the vacancy. I think that's the best line, yeah, by me, about applying for the PhD vacancy at Wageningen.
Okay, so if I can recap, I think the tips and tricks is to always read all of the admissions requirements at the the website, but also I think it's also good to to have recommendations from where you're currently doing the masters at UGM. So if you, because you're still a student there, you can, right now is the best time for you to ask for a recommendation letter. And maybe tips, is there like a interview for you to be accepted at the PhD program, Mas Erbi?
It depends. It depends on the project. Because
Okay.
for me, I didn't have any interview for it. But there are some friends that apply for the vacancy, and then the professor have some interest with the applicants, and then in order to short which one that should go with the PhD, they perform some interview. But it's not something regular or something that you will have. And so it depends on the supervisor for this one, for the interview.
Okay. Yeah, I like that you mentioned regarding your interview, actually interview with the scholarship provider during your LPDP interview, that you actually have really your argument to answer your first question regarding the about the publication. It's very brave of you to say that, and I think we need a lot more candidates that can give or prove with the best answer like that. Anyway, so I hope that answered your question, Karwo. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. So let's move on to other questions. I see that from the chat box, Alna is questioning regarding the background of your previous study during master. Is it actually important, or do you have to be graduated from a master's degree in the Netherlands if you want to do a PhD program in the Netherlands? For me, I would say it's not a mandatory to do this, because we have a lot of alumni or PhD candidates or alumni who did a PhD in the Netherlands. They were not all of them graduated from a master degree, but I would like to have some point of view from you, Mas Erbi, if you have any comments about this.
Well, regarding the graduations by me, it doesn't have to be a graduate student from Netherlands for sure, because currently there are many students which is doing PhD in Netherlands, but they didn't got they did the master and bachelor in not from Netherlands, from Indonesia, for instance. So it's not mandatory. Even if we talk more specific about the, let's say, the expertise, for instance, like for me, I did my bachelor in civil and environmental engineering, but I did my master not in engineering. I did my master in urban environmental management, so it's more about the urban studies.
Oh
And
yeah,
now,
that's a good point.
yeah, and now I'm doing my PhD. It's like a combination from my bachelor and my master. So I did my research right now focus on tourism areas, which is I'm looking at the urban area of tourism, and it's more about the engineering interventions in order to solve the water problem in this kind of areas. So my point is that you don't have to be like inline background if you want to do PhD in Netherlands, even if you want to do master in Netherlands. But the important thing is that you need to really understand about what you are going to do. So maybe, for instance, if you have a background in social, but then you want to do research in environmental, for instance, it's fine in Netherlands as long as you really understand about why you're going to do a research in different field, the reason why, and then how you can correlate between these two sectors. So that's the important point if you want to do research in Netherlands.
Okay, that's a really good tips, Mas Erbi. So I hope that gives you a motivation for Alna to really start your application to do a PhD in the Netherlands. Okay, thank you for your answer, Mas Arbi, and question from Alna. Next question. Okay, maybe before going into question regarding family and all of the student life in the Netherlands, I would like to go into the application first. So, yeah, someone is asking about getting the right supervisor for a PhD program. So he or she, because anonymous attendee asking, asks whether he or she already tried to contact some professors, but have not gotten any feedback yet, since he or she did his or her master's in Indonesia, and do not know the professor personally in certain university. Do you have some tips for contacting or starting to, approaching the professors in the Netherlands?
Well, the first suggestion is that do not write a very long email for sure. That's the first thing you have to consider. And then the second one, make it like a really concise and compact email to send for the supervisor, for the professor. And then the third one, uh, please also attach your at least research proposal. That's the second one. And even if you already have, let's say, for example, an IELTS scores or recommendation letters, you can also attach those kind of documents at your email. I think that's really helpful, because sometimes I talked with my supervisor about how do you decide to get the students for you doing a research, and then she said that, well, first thing first, I don't really like to read a very long email. So I just want to read like a very direct email. Hello, my name is this. I want to do PhD with you with the topic is this. This is my proposal. what do you think about my proposal? If it's suitable, maybe we can have a further talk. If you think you're not suitable with the proposal, then just ignore me. Something like that.
Maybe not
Well,
ignore me, giving maybe it
yeah, yeah,
helps
yeah,
if you ask like a feedback or something,
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
to direct him or her to to more relevant topics that correlates
Yes.
to the professor.
And please mind that it's not gonna be like a one shot time email only. Of course, after you send an email, the first thing I think I will say that maybe your chance to get the PhD higher if the professor send an email to you back to you. That's the first entry point, because I thought, because according to my experience from the Berkeley, for instance, after I sent my email and then I got a reply, and then we're having a long conversation through email, and I'm focused talking about the research about the topic, and then yeah, I focus about the research, and then at some points once the supervisor it's enough to the PhD, it's like how to say it, like, okay, you're doing PhD but not in like a direct speech, like, from the other side, they will say, okay, you got accepted for PhD. So it's gonna be a long, it will be a long process. So don't think that it's only like a one time email for sure. But once you already got a reply, it's, according to my experience, it's like the first checklist for you to for applying the PhD.
So that's actually only the start of your how do you say? It doesn't mean that you get a reply. That's your professor, right? Because you still have to a lot of long process to finally get a approval of your topic, and then you still need to get a admission letter from the university. But of course, that's a really good tips, yeah, Mas Arfi.
Oh, another thing,
Uh-huh.
Amy. Some people thought that if you already got accepted by the supervisor for applying PhD, it means they already accepted doing PhD at the university. It's two different things for sure.
Do you mean got accepted from another university than the
No,
ones he's
because
contacted?
no, some people thought that when they already in contact with supervisor and then supervisor already accept you being the students, it
Mm-hmm.
means you already got the PhD.
Oh yeah, I get what you mean. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. You
Yeah,
need to apply to the university as well, and it
yeah.
depends on the university. Like for instance, in Wageningen universities, the portal for apply for PhD, it's can only be opened by the supervisor. So like the
Mm,
supervisor will open the link, and then you apply through this link. So it means
okay,
that you have to get the acceptance from the supervisor first, and then you apply to university through the through the link that supervisor will send to you.
okay.
So yeah.
So in certain university, they do requires you to apply through their online application system, yeah, just
Yes,
like
yes, for sure.
applying for a bachelor's or master's program.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that's really important for you to know, because normally for scholarship providers such as the LPDP or yeah, from the Indonesian government, they require the admission letter provided or offered by the university, not the professor. So keep that in mind. Okay, thank you, Mas Erbi, for your answer and the question for the from the participant. Okay, we have another question which also relates to the application. This person asks, well, first of all, nice presentation, and then he asks, or he or she asks regarding the master's thesis, because what I understood here that he or she didn't do any master thesis. So do you ever heard any cases where a PhD candidate got accepted at a university in the Netherlands to do a PhD where they didn't do any master's thesis in the previous university?
Well, according to my experience, I have no idea about how it's going in other university in Netherlands, but in Wageningen at least, as long as you got a certificate, like a master certificate from the university, they don't ask about whether you're doing your master by research or doing your master by class or anything. So as long
Mm,
as you already got the certificate, like the master certificate, which is really state that you are eligible to hold master of what, for instance,
mm,
like that, then it's not gonna be an issue for applying PhD in the Netherlands, specifically in Wageningen University and research.
okay. But I think just to add for this question, it's also best to consult, yeah, with the university of
Yeah,
your
yeah.
choosing. So always ask the professor, or better that you also contact the admissions office of the PhD program.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And for instance, maybe Amy, you also heard about uh, some requirement to graduate from PhD in Netherlands. For
Mhm.
instance, you have to write, let's say, three or two or four academic paper. For instance,
Mm,
it's all well. Basically, it's not written in the university rules actually. So
okay.
it depends
So
on
it
the
depends.
agreement. Yeah, the agreement between you and the supervisor. So I think that's
Okay,
also the
okay.
case for this one. For instance, I mean, when I applied for my PhD, my IELTS
Mm-hmm.
was expired for sure.
Uh-huh,
But then
uh-huh.
I got exemptions because my supervisor already noticed about my English skills, and
Mm-hmm.
also she was my supervisor in master.
Yeah.
So she just asked the university, okay, the student doesn't have to submit the IELTS anymore because blah 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 blah. So I think that's also relate with your statement before that it's better you have to talk with the supervisor first about this master degree. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add regarding the English requirements, I think this also applies to yeah, same like you applying for a master degree, or yeah, for PhD in the Netherlands, because if you do graduated from a university that are, yeah, using a English as the main language of your study, you can get exempted. But it always depends on the university. Sometimes there are certain universities that get accepted for that, but sometimes you can only get exempted from certain countries, because they have to check your backgrounds, diploma, as well as the yeah, academic backgrounds, basically. Okay, thank you, Mas Erbi, for the answer. Let's jump to the chat box, because we also have another participants who are currently seeing a supervisor for his or her PhD at Wageningen University. So he or she also asked about tips on how to write a great motivation letter, especially when you will take different topics with your previous master degree. But right now, he or she is currently working a little bit about the topic that he or she wanted to take for the PhD. So any tips for the writing a good motivational letter, Mas Erbi? Maybe from your previous master degree as well, because you already have so many experience studying in the Netherlands.
Well, I found that writing motivation letters always focus on what you're going to do with the future. That's the key point for that's the main suggestion for me. And then something that you want to do in future has to be started from the issue or problems around you. Let's say, for instance, the reason why I want to do master degree before was because I was living in the cities and I found there were a lot of problems in cities and I want to be a problem solver with these problems. But I know that my capacity at that time is not sufficient enough to address all these kind of issues. And I believe that I have to choose one issues to be solved because I'm not a superhero. I'm not a god who can solve all the problems. So I decided the environmental problem to be addressed for my future. So my point from this statement is about first came out with some things that really matters for you, and then what you are going to do with this, and then is it really important for you to pursue higher degrees in order to solve the problems? That's the main questions, because sometimes I found some people's that, okay, I want to do master, I want to do PhD, without really know about what they're going to do next, and it's gonna be a disaster in my perspective. So first define about what you're going to do with the issues or the problems around you, and then find the right reason why you need to pursue higher educations in order to solve these problems.
Mm.
Otherwise, if you just want to, because I want to improve my personality, blah 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 blah, but then after you improve your personality, what for? What's next? If you don't do something with to the society. So those are some points that I always write down on my motivation letters, or my when I have opportunity to share my thoughts. It's always about what I'm going to do to the society, and then what I want to present to society, what I want to solve in society. And I believe my capacity is not sufficient enough, so that's why I need learn more, I need to study more, I need a higher education in order to build up my to scale up my capacity so I can solve the problems. So those are just some key points from me to write down the motivation letters. I mean,
Okay, so sort of reflecting on your goals ya, Mas Erbi.
yeah.
Not only your current goals, but also after your completing your PhD program in the Netherlands. Okay, so now I would like to jump to the question regarding research proposal. Because there's a lot of questions also regarding this. First of all, is there a specific format for a research proposal
No,
for applying?
no.
No. Okay, so
According to my
how did
experience,
you
yeah.
do it?
Well, according to my
Maybe,
experience, yeah,
yes,
there
please.
is no standard structure for the proposal. At least
Mm,
in Wageningen University and research, I don't know for other university, because from my experience, I was writing the proposal without any format. Even my thesis before, my master degree thesis, I didn't write it down in like a formal structure, in like a standard structure provided by the university. But they more concerned about the content, and then also the substantial things that you write down on the proposal. For sure you have to explain the background, and then also the problems, and then the relevance of your research, what is your main research questions, and then about the theoretical framework. Yeah, it's like a basic the basic things that you need to write down. But when you talk about the structure, it depends on you. There
mm,
is no standard structure for writing a proposal. That's my
okay.
experience. Yeah.
But is it actually okay to ask the professor or the, I don't know, PhD coordinator, if they have a specific format for this?
I think it's possible to ask those kind of documents about this kind of standard. But what I'm trying to say is that most of the supervisor or the lecturer in Netherlands,
Mhm,
they don't really care about the structure, as long as you write it down really clear, and then uh, well, easy to read, like very structure. It's fine, I think. But yeah, you can ask the PhD coordinator to ask about this standard documents for sure.
okay. So based on your experience, or maybe you've had communicated before with the professor, what kind of research proposal do the supervisors or professor usually look at? Is it the topic, if it's relevant to the professor, or um, maybe
Hmm.
the plan that you're going to do with your research?
Well, if I may share my experience, because at first I was talking with my supervisor without any documents, because I was invited to the Netherlands, right?
Mhm,
We just had a talk about, okay, we're going to do this research, and then maybe we can focus, blah blah. It's like a discussions,
mhm,
and then I got some points, and then from these points, I started to write my proposal. So it also happens to my college, which is also doing a PhD right now at Wageningen University Research, but different path, different way to get the PhD. He mentions that at first he just sent an email to the supervisor, and then like briefly write down about his interest and then what kind of research that he wants to do, and also the background, and then what is the problem that he wants to solve, and then some idea about how he will do the research. Just it's only the three parts of this research, and then the supervisor sent a reply to her that the supervisor really has interest with his thoughts, and then after that it will develop with along the way you chat with your supervisors. So that's why I mentioned before there is no standard format for the applying with the proposal.
So it could be coming from a really informal conversation, yeah, Mas Erbi.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So it's I mean, if you can approach professor while, for example, attending a conference, you can also do that, or maybe not really deep into the the research, but maybe just like a starting point. That's would be possible.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mas Erbi. Next one. Okay. So, last questions for research projects. I mean, research proposal and research projects. So, if someone interested in pursuing a PhD at Wageningen University and Research, do they have to conduct the research together or collaborating with the supervisors or the professor, or can it be carried out independently?
Well, the formation for doing PhD in Wageningen University Research, for sure, you need a promoter, which is most of the promoter are the chairman for the chair group. Chair group is like department. For instance, at the University of Indonesia, you have several department and you have the head of department. Mostly that the promoters are the head of department. We call it chair group in Netherlands. And then for sure for the supervisor, the first supervisor will be your main daily supervisors for sure. So this is the person that you will really keep in touch. You will talk to discuss about your research, like yes, many times, like daily activity with this persons. And then you can also have co-promoters, or you can also have another supervisors. It depends on the talks between the promoter and then the first supervisors. So in my case, for instance, I only have one promoter, and then my co-supervisor, co-promoter is also my main supervisors. So they have they have different roles between supervisor and promoter for sure. And then I also have three another supervisor, which these three supervisor are coming from different universities. Well, one from 20 universities, and then the other two are still from Wageningen, but different chair groups. So this is also something that you have to consider about your research. If and these combinations can be started if you already have a talk with your main supervisor. And if you talk about, is it possible to do the research independently? I don't think it's possible in Netherlands, because it's a must to have a supervisor. But then when you talk about the topics, it can be a topics from you. You bring the topics to the supervisor, or it can be started from you have a discussion first, and then at the end you were guys coming up with a topic that you want to do research together, and then she or he will act as the supervisor. You will be the researcher. It can be this way as well, or you can just join the research like the opening vacancy as we shared before, right? So it's a must to have a supervisor, and I don't think it's possible to carry out the research independently.
So does it mean as a PhD candidate or PhD student, you will sort of take the lead for the research, or still you're working together, you have the same status with the professor, with the supervisor or promoter?
It depends on your agreement with the supervisor or your promoter.
Okay.
It depends, because there are some students that doing PhD. This person really take a full control with the project, with the research, and the relationship between this person with the promoter is only for like administrative, but with the main supervisor is only to gain some insights, some inputs for the whole research.
Okay.
But for my case, but for my case, well, I'm not saying that I'm doing the research independently, but I always ask for approval, or maybe ask for idea inputs anytime I got an idea, or I'm writing something, or I'm going to do something with my research. So it's more
Mm.
about coordination with the supervisor. It's not like completely independent. You have to do a coordination with the supervisor for sure.
Okay, good to know. Okay, let's see on the chat box. Someone asked if there's a limitation of ages for doing a PhD in the Netherlands. Do you know about this, or at least at Wageningen?
No, there is no age limitation for sure.
Okay.
You can do PhD in Netherlands anytime you want,
Mhm.
and then I don't know for the scholarship. Yeah, according to my knowledge about LPDP, for instance, there is age limitations. I don't know, is it
40?
45 or 50?
Yeah,
45
45
or
maybe, yeah.
40? Maybe, I have no idea. But what I'm trying to say, don't worry about the age. First thing first, just apply, just get in touch with the supervisor, because sometimes, let's say if you already got accepted by the supervisor, but then you have a financial issues for PhD. If you cannot apply for the local scholarship, for instance, you just say it to the supervisor, because sometimes supervisor can find another way to get the funding for you. Let's say,
Mm.
because yeah, according to my experience, supervisor in the Netherlands, they have many projects for sure, and then maybe they can just like shift, or yeah, move some budget for your research.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so we also have a lot of questions regarding scholarship. Um, Maybe the first one is regarding your experience, because you don't really have um experience in before applying your PhD. You don't really write or wrote many publications. So but there's a question that he or she is not an academic, but he or she loves doing research and interested in continuing studies to a doctoral degree. And the question is, how do Mas Erbi convince the interviewer in LPDP? And yeah, maybe because you've already shared your some of the story, but can you give a bit more details? How yeah, about your regarding your background of not
Okay.
being having a academic or in academia, or for example.
Okay. I have a belief that PhD is not always about academician or scholar. That's the first thing that I really believe in. So that's why when I got questions about, well, you're going to do PhD, but you don't have any publication before. How do you deal with that? I I answered that questions by saying that, well, do you think PhD is only for academicians? That was what I said to the interviewers. And then after that, I mentions that, can you imagine in the 5 or 10 years in the future, where the CEO level, for instance, or the director, or the director general, or maybe the ministry, or yeah, any key person in Indonesia holding PhD degree? Do you think
Mm.
Indonesia will level up? And then I raised another question. So do you think they have to do some academic academic writing paper first? So that's the fundamental things that I want to also share with the attendance today, that PhD is not only talking about academicians, and I believe in this path. And I also share to the interviewee about my projections that in the future 5 to 10 years, all the not say all, but most of the key what is it called, like key position in these nations is fulfilled by people which has a higher educations, not only master. Because I think today master is like a bachelor when you talk about 10 years ago. 10 years ago, when you pursue master, you're already in another level. But today, when you pursue master degree, it's like, okay, everyone's got a master degree, then why? Then you have to level up the society to PhD. So it means
Mm.
that doing PhD is only about academicians. So that's why I convinced the interviewer that I really want to see Indonesia level up in terms of the uh, manpower, by the knowledge of our society. And I have a dream as well. I want to shift the paradigm in Indonesia that PhD is not about the academician. It's about how to build up the society. That's my fundamental reasons and the way how I convince the interviewers.
Okay. Wow. So yeah, maybe some of Indonesians here who are interested to apply for a LPDP, maybe you can take some takeaways from Mas Erbi's experience during the interview. Okay, so we another question about LPDP, because someone Pratnya Paramita would like to apply for LPDP and asking about the unconditional LOA. Is it, is it better to get a unconditional LOA or without LOA? And how long did it take for you to get the LOA from the university?
Hey,
And how complicated you get?
well, the difference between having LOA or not having LOA when you apply for LPDP is on the process that you will go through after the first step of LPDP. If you apply with LOA and then you already firm that you will go doing your study in this university, after the administrative procedure, you will go directly to the interview sections. But if you apply without the LOA, you need to go through what is it called? It's like scholastic test first before the interview. That's only the difference. But if you talk about the chance, how to get the chance or the probability you will receive the scholarship, there is no priority if you already got the LOA or not. So it's the same things if you apply with the LOA or not. And then talking about how long for me to get the LOA, uh, I think for master, it's very various because I got mine before was only for a week for my master after I applied through the websites, but I also got friends that had to need like a month to receive the LOA. So it depends on the university. But then for the PhD, it will not take a very long time. Maybe if you talk with the supervisor, blah blah blah, today, tomorrow you'll receive the LOE directly, because it's like a direct conversations, right? It's not through a system. So for PhD, after I got in touch with the supervisor and then I request, well, I need this letter of acceptance in order to apply for the university, blah 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 blah. So the supervisor directly asked the office to provide the letter of acceptance, and then the day after I received the letter of acceptance. That's what I use for to apply for the LPDPs. So it won't take times for the LOA for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for master's program, it will take you around 4 to 6 weeks normally.
Yeah.
But for PhD, I think it depends on university, because you also have different approach to the professor, for example. So it really depends individually. Okay, I'm just looking at my clock, Mas Erbi, because you also have to leave at 5:30, right? So do you still
Yeah,
have
it's fine.
more time? I don't know, around
25 minutes is fine, I think.
25 minutes? Really? Okay. Is that okay with you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, if it's okay with you as well.
Okay, that's fine. If you're okay, then I'm fine too. Okay, maybe just a quick answering some questions regarding academic transfer. Someone asking about if there's any PhD position at Wageningen University through the website. Yes, the answer I just checked. You can simply write down Wageningen or the field of study that you would like to do research on, and then it will appear on your screen what type of research position that is currently available at the university. So you can visit academictransfer.com Let's see. Other question about academic transfer. Yeah, someone asking about academic transfer recruitment day in Jakarta, even though okay, you don't have any scholarship yet. So okay. So for those of you who don't know yet the information about PhD recruitment in Jakarta, we for this event it is basically for those who are for those who have a existing funding from Indonesian government, for example. But we do encourage everyone to still apply because there are some Dutch delegates who are coming to Indonesia. They might have a potential vacancy that is relevant to you, or they also have might some inputs or tips on how to get a funding from their partner, for example. So there are ample opportunities during this event. So make sure to submit your application in time, so then they can check through all of the applications, and then you might be get invited to the interview. Okay, let's get back to the Q&A. Okay, someone is asking about a PhD vacancy application timeline. Maybe based on your experience and information, do you know how long does it take, Mas Erbi, to for you to send an email and finally receive a response from the professor?
Okay, maybe I can share my experience when I applied for PhD at Berkeley, because for my PhD in Netherlands, it's a different way. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I get contacted by the supervisor first, not I send an email to supervisor first. So maybe I will share a first experience about how do I got in Berkeley. I sent an email with a compact wording of emails, and also about the research proposal and my background as well, my CVs, for instance, and then my English proficiency, and then recommendation letter, something like that. And it took like a week for me to get a receipt from the supervisor, from the professor. And then afterwards I reply with a tic tac email, blah blah blah. And until I got accepted, I think it took like around 3 months, because after I received a reply and then some suggestions, I directly change this proposal, add something to the proposal, and I send it to the professor the next day. So basically, when you talk about how long does it take, it depends on you. It depends on you about how you're going to modify your research proposals. If you modify it in a high speed, for instance, then of course you will receive the timeline will be shorter. But then if you need times like 2 or 3 days writing proposal to modify the proposal, of course it will take longer time. But for comparison, like in the Netherlands, usually when we have a correspondence with the supervisors, not only talking about the PhD applications, also on other things, it takes like a day to get the feedback, to get the reply by the supervisors. So at first, for me, okay, maybe I can share also my journey when I got the PhD in Netherlands. So I got invited from my supervisor. I went to Netherlands, and afterward, I started to writing a new proposal for this project. I wrote the proposal like for a month, and I sent to the supervisor, because we already had a talk before. So the supervisor, at least more or less, she already know about my proposals. It was only like 3 days. It took 3 days to read my proposal and then send me some feedbacks. So even until today, I'm still in contact with my supervisor, and then we talk about the research. At the same times, also some administrative, like the housing stuff, and then like the life, even the life. Like I was talking about my families. We talk about his husband, blah blah blah. So it depends on you actually about how you approach the supervisors. But my conclusions about how long, about the timeline, it depends on you. If you really like, you don't need a long time to modify your proposal, for sure the timeline will be shorter.
Okay. So I think it also depends, yeah, because you have the benefit of yeah, because you graduated or you used to be a student at Wageningen, and then you already have how do you say, like the context to your professor, right? So you really have the benefit for that. But I think for those of you who are just starting from Indonesia, it could be that you will take more time to from when you send an email and then send your research proposal and then receive a response. But I think it also depends on the professor, if they're
Another
busy.
suggestions, Emmy. Another suggestion, Emmy.
Mhm.
Well, maybe you can also contact the PhD student in Netherlands
Mm.
and then have a discussion first with the PhD student. So because the PhD student has more connection to this professor, not only single, yeah, to the university, right?
Mhm.
So according, like for instance, another example from my friends, he got contacted by a master student in Indonesia, and then yeah, they are in contact talking about research and then having a Zoom meeting, blah 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 blah. And then afterwards, this master student started to write the proposal and then keep in touch with the PhD students. And at the end, the PhD student talked to the professor in Wageningen.
Okay.
And then you just like to bridge between the master student and then the supervisors. It's also can be a way for you to get the PhD in Netherlands.
It's like when you are applying for a job, yeah, Mas Erbi, and then you have
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
someone from the inside does help to
Yeah,
you know, support you in along the way.
yeah.
Okay, great tips. Okay, let's see. Uh, okay, someone is asking about well, this person is from Surabaya. He or she is studying at the university where publication is not compulsory even for PhD students. For especially master students, supervisors are reluctant to encourage publishing their master thesis. How we approach prospective supervisor for Wageningen University and research scholarship.
Well, if we talk about publication again, I mean, it depends on your necessity. I think, do you really need publication or not? Even if your university is not uh, mandate you to write the publications, but you want to write the publication, then you still can write the publications. And for instance, according to my experience, as long as you have a clear reason why you didn't have, you don't have any publications, and then why you want to do PhD without having publication, I think it's not gonna be an issue to apply for PhD. But for sure, there, like for me, I had a talk with my supervisor about the her expectations for publications, and it was like a negotiation between me and her. I told her, okay, we can write publications. What about only two? Because my focus in PhD is not about the academician, more about academic publications. I'm focused about doing something to the society, blah blah. So it's something that negotiable. You can do as negotiations, but I think for today, doing PhD writing publication is a must. It's a must for sure, and it does, well, having publication is not a mandatory for you to apply PhD. That's the first point. The second point, writing publication, if you already accepted as PhD student, it's a must. And the third point, the number of publication you should publish within your study for years, it depends on your negotiation and your agreement with the supervisor. So don't make like a publication become like a big deal for you. Just let it flow, because along the way you're not going to write the publication by yourself. It's like writing proposal for sure. You're writing the publications, and you got some advice from the supervisor, blah, blah. You have 4 years to, it's I think it's sufficient to write at least 2 publication in 4 years. You have one in 2 years and another one in 2 years. Of course you have time, so don't worry about doesn't have any publications. Just apply to the SPV.
Okay. Okay. Understood. So just start applying for the PhD, and then you can potentially discuss this matter with your own supervisor or professor. Okay, how about the taking a PhD program right after graduating from master degree? Is that possible?
It's possible. Like I mentioned before, I got an opportunity for this way before, right? Even before I graduated from my master, when I was writing my thesis during my master, my supervisor already offered me a PhD. So it will be like an extension of my master research. So it's very possible. It's completely possible to do PhD directly after the master degree, but you have to consider this with your future career. If you want to be a researcher, or you want to be an academician or scholar or lecturer, I think it's a good way for you, like directly after master to PhD. But then if you want to become a professional, I suggest you to have at least 1 or 2 years or maybe more working experience first, because at the end, when you go to the business areas, you're not talking about your intelligence, you're talking about experience as well.
But also the question is because actually the question is coming from a student, master student currently at Wageningen University. How do the students find out the PhD opportunity? Did
Talk
you
to the
just
supervisor.
did you just knock their
Yeah,
doors
yeah,
and
that's
then
true.
hey, I wanna do a potentially PhD in
Yeah,
Wageningen?
because the process for me, how I got the offer for PhD directly, during my thesis, yeah, of course, I was in touch with my supervisor really often, right? And then having a meeting, blah blah blah. And then there was a time I talked to my supervisor. Well, I think it's good for me if I'm doing PhD. And then it's just like a trust talk, not trust talk. It's just like a talk for me. I'm not taking it very serious. But then my supervisor, oh really? You want to do PhD? Okay, let's figure out. That's how she replied, and then she find me a PhD. Or maybe during your study in Wageningen, you can also make some appointment with some people, with some lecturer, and then just have a talk first, talking about your interests, and then talking about what you're going to do in the future, and then ask for the opportunity. It's very possible for you to ask them. But the opportunity, you got the PhD, it will be higher if you already have a communication before, like occasion before. For example, like for me, I already have an occasion in master thesis, so I really keep in touch with my supervisor, so daily activity with my supervisor, and then send an email, having a weekly meeting with the supervisor. So that's why I asked about, is there any PhD opportunity, something like that. And of course, if you like randomly ask any supervisor or any professor, hey, is there any PhD opportunity for me? Of course, you will get a lower chance, right? Because you don't have any connections before. So that's what I suggest for you.
Okay, that's a good tip. Yeah, so better to make some connection to get a better chance for you pursuing a PhD in the Netherlands. Okay, so let's see the chat box. There's one question that hasn't been answered yet. Regarding your PhD life, yeah. And also maybe during your negotiation with the professor, do you have to work for Wageningen University? We've talked about this a little bit before the session start. Maybe if you, for example, you get like some percentage of your time doing a PhD, you have to do a lecture for master's program, for example, or you have to score or to, you know, for the task or something or dissertation, for example.
Yeah. Well, to graduate from Wageningen University for PhD, there are several requirements beside writing dissertations. You also need to fulfill, I forgot how many ECTS, it's like credits for sure, like SKS in Indonesia. But this credit, it's not like credits you're going to the class and then you're taking an exam like that. No, it's not like that. It's more like a credits, for instance, like maybe there's a workshop about how to how to learn Python, for instance, and then you have to attend the class for several times, and then afterwards you get the credit, something like that. So it's not like a class that you have to attend and then at the end you need to do an exam. It's not like that. And also for PhD, it's not mandatory, but also no, it's not mandatory for sure, but you can have student. You can be a co-supervisor for master students, but the main supervisor is your supervisors. It's also
But that's
can
not
be
mandatory.
that's not mandatory, but if you do that, you can get the credits. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, you can get the credits to fulfill the minimum requirement.
Oh,
And also, if you attend some conference, for instance, or you do the publication, something like that, those kind of activities can be also considered as the credits if you're doing PhD. So if you talk about is it mandatory to work to the university, I'm 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 seeing this not like working to the university, but it's an opportunity for you to extend your network, I think.
or
Yeah,
network.
yeah. Even for instance in Wageningen, you can also doing the visit research, for instance. Like for me, for instance, I'm doing PhD in Netherlands in Wageningen, but then I want to perform like a 3 months research in other countries, in Australia, for instance. I can do it.
As long
So
as you have the budget.
yes, for sure. But the idea is to expand your network. That's the main idea.
Yeah, well, yeah, I do relate with this because from our previous sessions, there's one speaker said that if you do have the budget, you can also propose to attend a conference in another country that because it's also relates to your research, for example, and then you want to present your research to that conference, for example. Okay. Just a quick question about the English requirements again, because you said that there's a requirement of overall score 7 for IELTS, but does Wageningen accept other what is it English requirements for TOEFL, and then do you need to provide a GMAT or GRE?
For TOEFL is also accepted for sure, but GMAT for GRE is not mandatory. So you don't need to have GMAT or GRE. I think it also happens in United States right now because for Berkeley, for instance, I didn't have any GMAT or GRE for apply the PhD there. I don't know, it's a waiver or something like that. But during I applied that one when it was COVID, and I found out that many university in USA that waive the GMAT and GRE requirement. I don't know it happens also today or not. But according to my friends who is currently doing PhD in Rotterdam, if I'm not mistaken, uh, there are some notifications, some chair group, some research group who require the GRE or GMAT for doing that. But it's more about the business and economic sector for sure.
Is that for PhD?
If I'm not mistaken, yeah. If I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
Because what I understood is for masters, there are some study programs that do require
master, yeah.
GMAT and GRE.
Okay.
If you applying for a business administration, for example,
Okay.
they do need that type of requirements, but I'm not sure if PhD also requires that. So please do check with your prospective university. Okay. Now we jump into the visa application. How, because you're what I understood is that you are currently applying. Sorry, you know, maybe in the process of applying visa for you and your family. Maybe this is also related to the question from Kadung regarding bringing family to the Netherlands. How much money do you have to prepare, and for the for settling in Wageningen, for example?
Well, for sure about how much do I have to pay for visa? I mean, basically, I have no idea because my visa application is paid by the scholarship, and then my family, they the visa applications are being paid by the universities. But according to what I know, uh, more or less around 100, 200 euros. Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe you
I
know
believe
more about it.
210
200, yeah,
euros.
210, yeah,
Mhm.
210. But since for PhD, it's not like you're applying visa for vacations to Netherlands. The university will apply for your visa to the embassy. It's called the MVV, the name of the visas. And then for the Wageningen, they use third party, which is called the expat center. So every documents and every application for the visa is being held by the expat centers, and you need to pay some amount to them as well. And I think that's one is more expensive than applying for the visa, but that's the process. And if you got a scholarship, you don't need to worry about how much is it because it's already being paid by the scholarship. And for the family, well, basically for the family, I have to pay it by myself. So I have to transfer some amount of money to the expat center, and they will arrange everything. But for my case, again, it's something that you have to consider when you apply a PhD or doing something related to academic in Netherlands. Just ask and tell about your condition to the university, specifically to the supervisor. Because for my case, I directly asked the supervisor, well, is it possible for the university to pay my family visas and all the stuff? And then, yeah, they pay for me. They pay the visa for my two kids and my wife, and also for the fee to the expat center. So I don't need to send some amount of money.
Wait, so where is this expat center?
It's the Food Valley in Netherlands, in Wageningen.
Oh, okay. So it's actually a part of the university.
Yeah.
They organize or arrange all of the visa matters for
Yeah.
for expats or academic stuff.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And about the money should I bring? Well, for information, in Wageningen for family housings, approximately it costs around 700 to 1,000 euros per month. And then if you got LPDP at the beginning, you will receive, what is it called? It's like settlement allowance, which is nowadays more or less you will receive around 3,000, yeah,
Per month.
3,000 at the beginning.
Oh, at the beginning. For how many weeks?
Just like a settlement allowance. So it's like an allowance you'll
One-time
receive.
payment. Okay.
Yeah, one-time payment, 3,300. 3,000. Yeah, 3,000. Yeah, yeah, more or less something like that.
3,000 it's not including for housing, right? Only for your daily expenses.
No. Oh, well, basically, if you got LPDP, you will receive 1,500 euros per month. But for settlements allowance, you get double of it. So at the beginning, instead you get 1,500, you also receive 3,000. So 4,500 at the beginning, you receive this amount of money.
Mas Yusuf said 3,000 euro SA.
Yeah,
I'm not
settlement
sure what.
allowance.
Okay.
It's
So yeah.
settlement allowance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's true.
So
2,000 euros settlement allowance.
so that's actually a lot for those who
Yes.
doesn't have any funding yet.
And if you bring family for LPDP, yeah, at the second year, started from the second years, you will receive
Mhm.
family allowance equal to maximum 50% of your monthly allowance.
Okay,
So
okay.
you in total, if you bring more than one spouse, in my case, I'm bringing three spouse, right? So instead of 1,500 euros per month, I receive also 750 euros per month. So in total, 1,250 euros per month. So
Mm,
it's sufficient for you to live in Netherlands.
okay. All right. So I hope that's answer your question, yeah, Mas Kadung. And I think it's also the settlement allowance is it's different with the what is it called? The financial statement or the ones that you have to provide before for applying visa to stay
Yeah.
for at least 1 year.
Yeah,
Do you still need to do that to provide that financial statement?
well, for the financial statement, because LPDV provide the letter of guarantee, letter of sponsorship,
Oh
which
yeah.
is stated like the living allowance, I receive this amount, and then family allowance this amount. And in total, if you add the monthly allowance with the family allowance, the total is more than the minimum requirement for the applying visa. So you don't need to provide the financial
Yeah,
statement
correct.
anymore.
Yeah, because for some yeah, in most cases, for example, if you're studying for a bachelor and master's without, or even PhD without a scholarship, you do need to provide
Yes.
the financial statement, either from the bank or sometimes the university asks you to already transfer the amount of money for living for 1 year.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
yeah, for candidates here, you do need to keep in mind that there are other costs that you have to prepare for your study in the Netherlands. Okay, 2 questions left. Mas Erbi, do you already have to go?
No worries. It's only two questions
Okay.
left, right?
Yeah, but this question is actually directed to us for the apply university through Nuffic, and the other one is to finish yeah, there's someone is interested to pursue his or her study in Wageningen. So does he have to finish the proposal research first and then contact supervisor? But again, there's two ways, yeah, to do this, either from a job vacancy and then from a research proposal. So maybe you can add to that, Mas Arbi.
Uh, well, as Emmy mentioned before, there are at least two ways to get PhD in Netherlands. First, from the PhD vacancy, and the second one is you bring up your own research through a proposal. But do you have to finish the proposal first and contact the supervisor? The answer is no. But at least from the proposal, when people read your proposal, the people can have a clearance about what are you going to do with your research, because after that you will get more inputs, and then you have to develop more with the proposal. And then basically in Netherlands, after a year, if I'm not mistaken, more or less a year, you pursue PhD. There is like not a conference, but it's like go or no go with the PhD. You will be, you're not judged, but it's like a meeting, like a serious meeting, whether you will go or no with the PhD. So the timeline, at least before go or no go, the go or no go meeting, you already finished with the proposal. So the common timeline is that the first year of your PhD is you're writing the proposal, and then the last 3 years is writing about the result of your research. That's the basic timeline of doing PhD in Netherlands. But if you can start earlier, why don't you start earlier? So you don't need to write another proposal within the first year, but you just need to complete your proposal after you have a discussion with the supervisor. So I might say that it's not a must to finish the research proposal first before contact the supervisor.
Okay. Because eventually you do have to contact the supervisor first if you want to go through a research proposal, right? Yeah, into that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so one last question about the applying for university in the Netherlands through Nuffic. So that's actually not possible because we actually not an agent. So what we actually do is to provide information regarding study in the Netherlands and as well as conducting PhD in the Netherlands. So we can direct you in a way by giving you some information, but also tips and tricks. If we don't have any answer to your questions, we can also give you some recommendation and suggestions where you can look that information. For example, if your question is already very detailed into the university, we will recommend you to already contact or consult the prospective university. So we don't actually provide what is it, application for you. We don't apply it for you, but you do it as a individually. So I hope that answered your question. So I think we have answered all of the questions. This is the first the first time we answered the question for a session for the PhD in the Netherlands. So thank you, Mas Erbi, for joining us to be our speakers and sharing all of your experiences starting your PhD in the Netherlands. But to just wrap up this this session, do you have any other maybe motivational message to our future PhD candidates this session? Or you can also give some tips, or I don't know, anything that you'd like to say.
Okay, what I'm going to say is that first of all, don't worry about the future, and then you need to worry if you don't have idea about what are you going to do in the future. PhD is only like another a step to pursue, to gain, or to achieve your big goals. What you need to do is define your big goal first, and then think: is doing PhD is a right way to do for achieving your future or your goals. If it's not something necessary for you to pursue in order to achieve your big goal, don't go with PhD. But if you want to level up yourself, doing PhD is the right way. So it depends on you. Do you want to do PhD or not? And don't forget, it's a journey. It's not a study, it's a journey. Which means you will meet many peoples along the way, you will meet many things, you will find many problems and the stuff, blah 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 blah. So enjoy the process, up and downs, because it's a journey, it's not a study. Maybe that's all by me.
Okay, thank you very much, Mas Erbi. Very encouraging, I hope. Yeah, so to wrap up this session, we'd like to thank you everyone for joining this session. We still have another sessions for the PhD in the Netherlands online series, so please keep updated through our social media channels. We will be sharing all of the upcoming sessions. But also, if there's any updates regarding PhD recruitment, we will also update those to our social media. So don't worry, for those of you who are joining a little bit later, we also are recording this session, so it will be available on our YouTube channel, Nuffic Southeast Asia, along with other previous sessions. So you can always watch again with different experiences from our guest speakers. So thank you, Mas Erbi, again for your time. Sharing the experiences, and I hope to welcome you again soon in our future events.
Thank you, Mbak Emi. Thank you, Nuffic.
Yes, and success for your PhD journey, as you said. Okay. Well, goodbye, everyone. See you on the next session. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.